I'm going to have you just tell everyone what the strengths and weaknesses of this particular vehicle were. And if anyone has any strong opinions to agree or disagree, feel free to jump in.
All right, so the first thing I did was I sat in the back seat. That's when I first got into the Lexus. Immediately I noticed that they had zippers on the back of the seats. So I thought maybe I'll just undo the seat while I'm sitting back here. I'm not gonna find that on a Volvo. As well as the interior of the dashboard was rather, I would say dated, but it wasn't dated. It was just oddly designed. The media display was really weirdly positioned. It kind of had like a cockpit feeling to it. For the exterior, it did have a little bit more of a sporty look. It had a nice grille for people that like giant opens, because the front has a massive opening. The rims were pretty good as well. They were 17-inch rims, but they weren't so bad. The technology in the vehicle, it had a very nice analog clock on the dashboard. So if you like analog clocks, that's like a plus for you. Not so much for the media display though. The media display looked a bit dated. Could be bigger, could be better positioned. I don't think it was touchscreen. It wasn't a touchscreen on that car. And then in terms of performance, it was a rather slow vehicle. It didn't feel that sporty, even though it looked sporty. It had a 6-speed transmission, so it wasn't as smooth as our vehicle either. And not a lot of horsepower, so 236 or 260, and it's a 6-cylinder. So they definitely could do a little bit more in the horsepower.
I actually have a friend who has done some Lexus training, and so he and I were talking, and he said the cockpit thing is totally intentional, and yet, like for me, it does feel kind of like all the things I reach for, they're not in an intuitive place. There's sort of this break in that display, and sort of I've had some debate on that, the seats and stuff. But one thing you didn't point out that I just kind of want to highlight, everyone probably noticed, is that Lexus has still not made Apple CarPlay and Android Auto available, which of course are standard on our cars. That's a huge advantage, and that also sort of highlights how our infotainment system has advanced beyond theirs. I also think the sound of the Lexus sounds like it's going to be very high performance, and then it's not. So it's a very interesting sort of like attempt at sport, and yet still keeping this sort of Lexus way, and you highlighted that beautifully, so thank you. All right, yay.
So, of course, this model of BMW was the 328, one step up from the entry level, 320 being the entry. The interior, more of a leatherette, not a leather, so very cold. Sticky. You try to get in, you try to slide into your seat, and you stop, right? And that's after you've hit your head as you're climbing in. The bolsters are very uncomfortable for anyone my size or bigger. They blow out, but only a limited amount. So, of course, you get that dig right into the back of your rib cage. The exterior, it's at the end of its life cycle. It's not going to change much. They never will. They're always going to look like BMWs, every single one of them. But it's getting old. That look. The display, it's a different, the way they tuck it in. Of course, there's been a lot of, in the early days, the iDrive system. It was, when it came out, it was hated, no one liked it. But let's be honest, everybody went to it in some means form. In some cases, if you're used to it, it's an amazing way to spin it and do it, but it can still be a funky system. Performance, heavy, slow, you know, BMWs are different. We talk about Mercedes, we talk about BMW. The old line used to be, do you like to be driven or do you like to drive? Well, in a BMW, if you know how to drive it, it still can go. But in this case, that one was a bit sluggish. The unlock button is funky. Everything that's up through here, you know, you go to unlock and, okay, where am I? Plastic, a lot of plastic inside of it. It's the old BMW way. The design interior has not changed very much, and it doesn't matter if it's a 3, a 5, a 6. They're still stuck in that little bit, but that's not what they're about. They're about their performance, right? So people overlook some of the design. It is tight. It is small inside for a touring. No cross traffic. No, you know, on that vehicle. Again, plastic seems to show up a lot of areas. Dated. I can get into more detail about the braking system and all that. Remember when BMWs and Mercedes, we had the front always black? Well, they changed that, changed the padding, they changed the rotor, and now you use them too much, you get that because they changed to a cheaper brand to stop the blackness. So you had great brakes before, but now you just have cheap brakes. What else we got on it? Dated seems to be, as I said, and it definitely, it's falling backwards compared to what we have now as a product and any of the other products. Unfortunately or fortunately, I've owned a bunch of these different brands and new to Volvo, and I gotta say, it blew me away the first day I walked in the showroom to talk to our owner, and I'm like, okay, I had a cross country 10 years ago. What the hell happened? Yeah. Like, I haven't been in here. What is that? Of course, the V90. I walked in, I saw that, I'm like, oh my God. So definitely, as a new person to Volvo and as an old person from there, sky's the limit.
All right, we have one last board here, and it happens to be the S60 and V60. I'm chasing you down. The S60 and V60. So will one of you go through what are some of the noticeable highlights of that vehicle?
All right, so for the S and the V60s, I see here real leather for the interior. The best seats, Paul has mentioned that he has found that he has the most hip to knee room lengthwise for a gentleman who are taller with longer legs. Most room in the back as well. It's very comfortable in the back. And me personally, I like the panel roof. Okay, the other cars, it's just a single everyday sunroof. Exterior-wise, most modern design. Again, the highlights on the side, the body panel there. Somebody put down sexy. Panel roof. Bland color, who put that? Color selection-wise, you know, we got the red. Technology, 9-inch touchscreen, intuitive, voice command, Volvo on call, autonomous, touchscreen again, audio sound, Bose, Byron Wilkins. I didn't check every single car's system, but it sounds to us that the Volvo's got one of the best systems of the competition today. What do we got finally here? Performance. So most horsepower out of a 4-cylinder. Quickest 0 to 100 time as well. Dynamic mode is very nice. Somebody put down here, Polestar can be added to give you even more pep to the vehicle. Brakes on a dime.
You know, we're the only manufacturer right now that has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto standard. The BMW, by the way, has Apple CarPlay available, but not Android Auto. And every other brand, you have to pay quite a premium, usually getting into a package and then paying for them individually. The other thing is you can see our touchscreen is light years ahead of the other technology for infotainment. So today it's just normal technology, and we're bringing it to automotive, and no one else is. So we have so much to brag about, and I know that you saw that and we're able to kind of bring that home. So I just want to touch on maybe some of the other sort of competitive comparisons. If you look at the standard safety features that we put on every S60 and V60, look at the BMW 3 Series. Look at the MB, look at the Audi, and look at the Lexus. So you can see large animal detection, we are the only one in market. Runoff road mitigation, the only one. Runoff road protection, the only one. Oncoming lane mitigation, oncoming braking is not even here, right? Because that's a new feature that was just launched this year. So you can see we have a lot to talk about in terms of, hey, if you're coming in and you're doing city driving in Toronto, and you need vehicle detection, you need pedestrian detection, and we put it standard on every S60 and V60 at any cost. Most of this is not available on any of the other manufacturers. When you get to additional safety, notice we've got a very strong optional story, right? And you look at the Lexus, they have none of these available, which is kind of shocking because this all seems actually pretty basic, but they don't have those. BMW does not have cross-traffic alert or rear collision warning, and of course we know on S60, V60, and XC40 cross-traffic alert includes with auto brake. But a lot of the manufacturers' Pilot Assist is starting to become available. We talked about it. It's not Audi or Lexus yet, but Mercedes and BMW make this available as well. So we have to know what are the differences, what is standard, what is not standard, how do we add this, what package do you want, vision, And that makes it definitely more engaging and more interesting.